Welcome to It's a Woman's World, where we'll meet achieving women making a difference in our world. I'm Carolyn Bruna. Our guest today is Laura Morgan, a speech language pathologist and certified brain injury specialist who works at Metro Speech Therapy in Gaithersburg, Maryland, with clients of all ages and disorders, including those with neurodivergent and or sufferers of traumatic brain injuries. We actually met at a Toastmasters meeting, and Laura sounded so interesting that I knew she'd be a great guest for our show. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be here.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have you here, too. I'm going to begin our questions with you, Laura. Our show today is on the role of compensatory strategies in cognitive rehabilitation, which is a mouthful. So before we say anything else about it, I'd like to ask you please to define it for us.
Sure. So, cognitive therapy aims to enhance someone's mental functions like attention, memory, and problem solving. Cognitive therapy can be broken down into therapeutic approaches, in which the goal is to restore impairments, and compensatory approaches, which aim to bypass impaired functions with the help of tools and strategies. For example, after breaking a leg, with the goal of returning to physical movement, a therapeutic approach can be compared to physical therapy, while a compensatory approach can be thought of as a wheelchair. Compensatory strategies are all the tricks to support the completion of goals that and can be divided into external and internal strategies.
Oh, great. Thank you, Laura. I actually think I understood some of that. What are the external and internal compensatory strategies?
Mm-hmm. External compensatory strategies involve tangible, visible tools to support cognitive skills. For example, external compensatory strategies that support schedule management are calendars and alarm clocks. So, those are external compensatory strategies. Internal strategies are ways your mind organizes and attaches meaning to something, which makes it easier to process and remember. So, some examples of internal compensatory strategies for memory are acronyms, in which a letter is assigned to each word you want to remember, and visualization, in which a mental image is created for the information you want to recall.
Oh, that's great. I know they're used today commonly, really. A lot of ads use uh, different strategies like acronyms. And don't athletes do a lot of visualization to do better in their particular sport? That's amazing.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Laura, you also mentioned that you had an accident, which I was very sorry to hear about, but that led to your cognitive rehab. Would you kindly tell us about that?
Yeah, I was a buckled passenger in a very serious motor vehicle accident. Thank God everyone survived, but I sustained serious injuries, including a moderate severe diffuse axonal traumatic brain injury, TBI,
Hmm.
some broken bones, including my jaw and the highest two spinal vertebrae in the spinal column.
Wow, that's horrible. And I believe you had told me originally that uh, luckily or providentially, the coincidence that two nurses happened to be going by the other way and encountered your crash and helped you. Want to just say that? Tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah, two nurses were traveling in the opposite direction on the highway, and they came across the accident soon after it had occurred. And they, thank God, pulled over and ran across the median. They knew what to do, what not to do, which is critical because my neck was broken. So any well intentioned stranger easily could have tried to prop me up or move me in a way that would have possibly left me paralyzed or
Mm.
dead.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank goodness that happened and you're Luckily, so much better today. Back then you went to the emergency room, and how long were you in the hospital?
I was an inpatient in several hospitals for a total of 72 days,
Gosh.
none of which I remember.
Hmm.
After being discharged home in a wheelchair, I completed intensive rehabilitation for several years.
Wow.
My therapies included not only physical therapy, but also occupational therapy to address everyday abilities like dressing, and also speech therapy to address swallowing in the early days, then cognitive abilities like memory and attention later on.
Hmm.
In my personal experience, the most frustrating therapy to complete was actually speech therapy.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I have a nephew now who is going through speech therapy because of Parkinson's, and I know the days he does not practice, it makes a big difference. So, yeah. Uh, Now, and what made the speech therapy so frustrating, though?
Good question. Due to memory loss, I was in a perpetual process of discovering the tragic circumstances that I found myself in. My mom remembers needing to comfort me when I woke up from frequent naps. At the time, I wouldn't recall anything from the accident. Then, um, in one instance, I'd seen the wheelchair across the room and was devastated to learn it was for me. Basically, every time I woke up from a nap, I had to undergo the painful process of realizing and grieving what I had lost. Additionally, factors that I think made speech therapy so frustrating for me were the fact that it's dealing with an invisible injury. So I couldn't as easily track progress. And I only remembered what had emotionally been significant, which was often the bad stuff.
Yeah, so so you had said that recovery was going through, you were impacted by ongoing grief. I'm so sorry. You used a phrase to discuss how this grief seemed to increase as surprisingly as you healed. Can you tell us that story?
Exactly. I observed this was happening, that the grief would increase as my cognitive skills improved. And I
Mm,
started referring to it as the double edged sword of cognitive progress, because only as the skills of self awareness and problem solving, for example, started returning to normal, could I start recognizing the abilities I had lost, my deficits, and all of the uncertainties surrounding my situation. This meant that as my cognitive and emotional processing improved, I could expect there to be new layers of grief to manage.
mm,
As we already know from many studies in psychology and counseling, grief is unfortunately not a linear thing. Life experiences will cause that loss to creep back out, needing to be addressed again. Although, hopefully, with proper addressing and managing, the impact of the loss will diminish over time.
mm. I see. Uh, it's amazing that you are so smart that you realize all these layers, which I don't think most people do. Did you discover anything that helped you in this stage of your recovery?
Yes, there are several things. To counter the fact that I seem to only remember the bad stuff, I formed what I call a journal of successes.
Mm,
And in that journal, I recorded any victory, regardless of how insignificant it could seem to others. Like, for example, I recorded the first time I figured out a trick for pulling my hair into a ponytail despite my left hand's hemiparesis weakness. And a journal of successes can encourage the intentional acknowledging and celebrating of the progress made. Also, in my recovery, I learned the potential impact of even the clinician's office decorations. But for example, it would be perfectly natural to set up decorations in your work office that remind you of favorite pastimes and achievements. But if you want to support a patient's attention, motivation, and performance on a task, put yourself in their shoes. I recall one instance of seeing a picture hung at eye level behind the therapist's desk of them doing exciting outdoor adventures with friends, which is an activity I'd normally love to be doing, except I physically couldn't due to the accident. So, what I said earlier applies here because I haven't the faintest idea of anything helpful I gained from that session, but I sure remember the photo and how it made me feel hopeless and sad. So, encouraging uplifting environments really had the power to help me in this stage of my recovery.
Yeah, when I read anything about working on yourself, whether it's physical or mental, it always mentions something about celebrate small successes. And I see that's exactly, I love your journal of success. I'm going to mention that to my nephew. How has your own unique background molded your priorities in speech therapy sessions that you now facilitate?
Thank you. A clear takeaway for me was learning how counterproductive cognitive therapy could be if it was just constant assessment and reassessment. I knew I was dealing with what felt like a broken brain. I just wanted help knowing how to fix it. So, as a speech therapist now, I always want there to be a functional application to the therapy activities I present. I want the purpose and use of an activity to be explicitly identified. Cognitive therapy, I found, can feel like being asked to complete a marathon with a broken leg. So I feel it's crucial that the purpose of an activity be identified along with discussing its everyday relevance.
Yeah. And this is all when you're teaching somebody else, you've learned from your own experiences. Yeah.
Exactly.
What are some of the challenges that you still face?
Mm-hmm. I expect and I accept that I will always experience short term memory challenges, but I tell my brain injury clients now that there is no telling the future success possible through a combination of neuroplasticity, which is your brain's healing, rewiring after injury, as well as discovering and incorporating compensatory strategies. So, yes, I have a rather rotten short term memory, but I also have many compensatory strategies built into my life that I don't even need to think about using because they're so automatic now, which is the goal. So I've disclosed to some of my clients the story of my first outing with friends once I was back to driving. After dinner, I had returned to where I was sure I had parked in the garage, but my car was missing. I went to the kind parking garage attendant and with news of this shocking car theft. And he was about to start reviewing videotapes when it was discovered that I'd parked in the garage next door. So, in that parking lot story, the mishap was a necessary indicator that I now needed to always record where I parked, if not right outside my house or work. So if I make mistakes during sessions or in the weeks surrounding a session, I'll humbly admit it to the client and I'll model for them a growth mindset and support them in identifying how this mistake could have been prevented. So, a growth mindset is defined by understood.org as a way of viewing challenges and setbacks. People who have a growth mindset believe that even if they struggle with certain skills, their abilities can improve. They think that with work, their skills can get better over time. And I have a poster of that on my clinic wall, my office wall, and it's a good reminder for my clients and myself. So, in addition to the cognitive deficits resulting from the accident, I also accept that I will always experience some physical challenges. I would love to return to running safely outside, but with my current balance deficits, among other things, my current physical activity of choice is my stationary bike.
Mm-hmm. You know, I have to say, most everybody at one time or another, whether they've had any type of challenges or not, do not remember where they parked. So
Right.
that's very common.
Yes.
And I think most people now could or should perhaps write down the number of where they parked, or at least say it to yourself, which I always do mentally, and every now and then I'll write it down.
Exactly. I love to point out to my clients that anyone can benefit from using these strategies. So I like to give a motivating, I hope empowering talk about you're just setting yourself up for success in the future. Whereas your peers may be surprised that and shocked by not being able to remember where they parked. You are not surprised by it, and you've already got strategies ready to go.
Absolutely good. True. Okay. What makes your challenges, these challenges that you have, harder or easier?
So forming habits using compensatory strategies makes life after brain injury so much easier.
Mm.
Once the need for a compensatory strategy has been established through maybe a slip up, like not remembering where you parked, I aim to model for clients and coach them in using as many strategies as possible, including signs, labeled mobile alarms, and acronyms, in order to repeatedly use that strategy successfully, which follows a method called errorless learning. Several things can make use of strategies harder, including being in settings where I'm unable to use strategies like note taking, last minute changes that I hadn't prepared for, or even internal factors, including lack of sleep or anything that is requiring much of my emotional or mental faculties. So I have learned to incorporate additional precautions, accommodations, and strategies to reflect the demands of internal and external factors. And through my own experience as a brain injury survivor, and now as a brain injury specialist, I've become passionate about some easy to use tricks that I've seen have a wonderful impact on the lives of both neurotypical and neurodivergent individuals.
Yeah, okay. Strategies that we should all use, really.
Exactly.
Neurotypical and neurodivergent. Would you please define those two words for us?
Okay. Neurotypical is a typically developing brain. So, assumedly, yourself would be a neurotypical.
Right, thank you.
Neurodivergent includes traumatic brain injury, but also genetic, hereditary disorders.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And neurodivergent, I was looking it up. It says something about it just means that you learn differently. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, thank you. I believe we're going to break now for a short public service announcement.
Because my parents told me I have to be responsible.
Because my first coach told me, you can do this.
Because my teacher helped me see the choices.
Because my coach treated me like everybody else.
Because my boss showed me how to do a good job.
Because a mentor believed in my potential.
Is why I am where I am today.
I'm swimming faster than I ever dreamed I could.
I discovered that I could work as an artist.
I led my high school team to 2 championships.
I am a valuable employee.
I have a career that I am passionate about.
I will be whatever I want to be.
What can you do?
What can you do?
Like all young people, youth with disabilities should grow up expecting to work and succeed. For more information, visit whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Laura Morgan, a speech-language pathologist and certified brain injury specialist, who is also a brain injury survivor. In our first half, we heard some of her personal story, talked about compensatory strategies, and heard some examples. Now, Laura is ready to tell us about some of her favorite strategies, which are something called metacognitive strategies. Laura, let's discuss some of the internal or external strategies that support your goals. What are some of your favorite external strategies which listeners can incorporate as they need them?
This is one of my favorite topics. I use so many external strategies in my life, and as is the goal of compensatory strategies, I don't even need to think about using many of them because they're so automatic now. Some examples of external strategies I use: I make labeled alarms on my cell phone to remind me when laundry needs to be switched or is done. I use mobile notes for grocery shopping, parking spots, the list goes on. I'm a huge fan of my digital Gmail calendar, which I can access anywhere using my phone or any computer I have access to. For important events, I'll set multiple reminder emails and pop-up messages the day before and the day of an event. I write down everything and prefer to have important information relayed to me by email so that I can refer back to it without needing to ask and re-ask questions. In fact, speaking of email, I receive most emails, frequently multiple times a day, from myself. In Gmail, I star an email that requires any follow-up action on my part, and I only unstar them once they're completed. So when I have free time, I go in and I pull up all the starred emails and take care of some of those tasks. In discussing useful compensatory strategies for myself and clients with brain injuries, I've seen great applications from the principles of neuroplasticity.
Okay. Can you summarize what are the principles of neuroplasticity for us?
Absolutely. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. Many principles of neuroplasticity are summarized really nicely in a great article by Klein and Jones, and it's titled Principles of Experience-Dependent Neuroplasticity: Implications for Rehabilitation After Brain Damage, and it's from the Journal of Speech, Language, and Hearing Research. I won't go through all of the principles right now, but I do recommend looking that study up. And I'll mention just a few of the principles, which are use it or lose it, use it and improve it, repetition matters, and salience matters. So while working with brain injury survivors and with my own lived experience in mind, probably my favorite strategies are something called metacognitive strategies.
Mm-hmm. I love that use it and improve it, because we know use it and lose it a lot, but not use it and improve it. Okay. So Laura, tell us then about the metacognitive strategies which our viewers can try for themselves.
Absolutely. Metacognitive strategies are tools for thinking about our thinking. Some acronyms have become my favorite metacognitive strategies that I teach clients and I use myself. I know many brain injury survivors, for example, have great difficulty knowing how to independently form and complete a task. But I've seen them have great success when applying a memorized sequence.
Oh, right. The memorized sequences. What metacognitive strategies do you teach then?
For forming an action plan, I teach goal, plan, do, review. For memorizing something, I use the acronym TRAP, which stands for translate into your own words, repeat it, I say 5 times. A is associate the target with something you've previously learned, and P stands for practice, recalling the acronym or teaching it to somebody else. So again, that is TRAP. To support reading comprehension, or I even use this for watching a movie, I like to recommend the use of the strategy PQRST, which stands for P preview. Is there a summary on the back of a book or a movie preview? If not, looking at the titles and chapters, what can be predicted? So that's P. Q is question. Are there any comprehension questions? If not, you can always prompt the client to identify the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why.
Right.
Now we're up to R, which is read or review the material, finding the answers as you go. Next is S, summarize, form a summary of the main points in your own words. And T is test. Test yourself by covering up the answers.
I love those. And originally I was a reading specialist. And so I also used these, I didn't realize they were metacognitive, but evidently metacognitive strategies for reading comprehension when I teach it. It's very similar to yours. It's called SQ3R, summary, question, read, recite, review.
It's great.
And I teach them to turn the heading into a question and then read the paragraph or the following information to answer that question. And
exactly.
yeah, and I've been using that myself when I want to learn something new. So, and they're good for all teachers and all students of any ability, really. Yeah. Laura, for our audience who might just be turning in, please define again, just one more time quickly, compensatory strategies.
Sure. Compensatory strategies are any of the tricks to support the completion of goals, and they can be divided into external and internal strategies. So external strategies involve tangible tools like sticky notes and calendars, and there are internal strategies which involve organizing information and attaching meaning, such as using mnemonics or grouping.
Great, thank you. Now, how can people get in touch with you, Laura?
To contact me, I recommend going to my website, which is www.soundmindinsights.com, or you can follow my Instagram, which is at SLP_TBI, or pop me an email at laura@soundmindinsights.com.
Laura, what important concept do you want people to remember most about cognitive rehab?
In finding good compensatory strategies, it's critical to remember that every brain, whether typically developing or neurodivergent, is unique. So the combination of education and compensatory strategies required for each person's success will also be unique. The key to compensatory strategies is to find what works best for you, then be consistent using it. My own brain injury recovery has been a team effort of family, friends, medical professionals, and compensatory strategies. Through my experience over the past 12 years, I've learned that the survivor, the medical professionals, and care partner experts are essential for reaching the goals and achieving success in cognitive therapy.
Wow. Thank you, Laura. This is such stimulating information that can be used by all teachers and all lifelong learners. I so appreciate speaking with you today. I hope all of our viewers can find a tip for their own lives and lifelong learning, especially as we age. If you know a woman who'd be a great guest for our show, please email us for womansworldtv@aol.com. Remember, it's a woman's world. I'm Carolyn Bruna. See you next time.